All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Callie Lakacher. I am a graduate assistant in student life and leadership with the Commuter Life Department. For today's Mentoring and Success Coaching in the Virtual Environment module, we will be talking about mentor communication skills and focusing on questioning and listening. So just to dive right in here. So main topics, we will be talking about active listening and open questioning. So really what it is, why it's important, what are some good questions, what should we avoid, so on and so forth. We will also be talking about how we should question and what to avoid when we are questioning. So really some do's and don'ts and some techniques that you can use when you are meeting with your mentees. And lastly here, just being aware of the space, really learning how to read the room, and why this is so important in a mentoring role. So learning outcomes for today. Number one, we hope that you will gain a clear understanding of conversational engagement and the importance of body language, eye contact, and reflective questioning. Number two, mentors will become aware of what active listening is and gain confidence in your own active listening skills. Number three, mentors will be able to encourage reflective practice skills with their mentees. For being mentors will be able to gauge the feel of a space or really read the room with their mentees and be able to actively make shifts needed to best fit that space. And lastly, mentors will understand that there is no shame in not knowing the answer and that honesty and authenticity are best practices. So jumping in, talking about three major tools here in engaging in conversation. The first one being body language. So something that will be very useful as a mentor is realizing that your body really speaks its own language. It shows if we are being receptive, if we are interested, if we're engaging in the conversation, are we agreeing, disagreeing? And really something to know is that it can just as easily show the opposite. So really we encourage just that full front-facing position, just looking comfortable and engaged, making eye contact, really nodding your head, tilting, smile, some like subtle hand movements to show like you're in agreement. Light facial expressions, you don't want to overdo facial expressions, whether it's, if you're looking shocked or in disagreement, it's not something that you want to overdo too often. But really just being aware of your body language with your mentees, and being aware of your mentees' body language is just as important. Notice if they're uncomfortable, right? If they're uninterested, if they're looking around, if it looks like they're on their phone, so on and so forth, so you can address that right away. Moving into active listening, being next to someone, talking is not the same as listening. So just being in a space with them while they're talking is different from actively listening to what they're saying. So when we are active listening, we are using all of our senses. So this includes body language, but it's also giving your full undivided attention to the speaker. It's important that the active listener is also seen to be listening, especially when speaking over Zoom. So when we're talking about mentoring in a virtual layout, really having your camera on, right? Virtually being present so they can see that you are listening. It is about patience. So it's important to use pauses and short periods of silence. This kind of creates a space for the mentee to be reflective. And really, if there's anything they want to add, anything they want to change, then they have the space to do that. Interest can be conveyed to the speaker by using both verbal and nonverbal messages. Providing this kind of feedback, we say feedback being those nonverbal and verbal messages, can help the person speaking feel more at ease and therefore communicate more openly and honestly. And then lastly here, as a mentor, sharing the mic. So this is something that I have been introduced as the 60-40 idea. But most of the time, a mentor is in the listening role. So you are listening to what the mentee has to say. You're remaining neutral and non-judgmental. This really kind of is a space for them. So you want to make sure they have the mic the majority of the time. So just quickly, verbal and nonverbal engagement. So verbal being that full body active listening that we've been talking about. And then also including these little techniques and skills you can add to when you're with your mentee. So a big one being reflective listening. So verbally reflecting back what the mentee said. And this kind of ties in paraphrasing and summarizing the next 2 points here. So if a mentee is talking about a negative encounter they had with a roommate, you could just say, okay, so it seems like what your roommate did seemed to really hurt you. am I right there? Or am I on the right track here? And so you'll rephrase, paraphrase, and then the summary kind of comes when the mentee is more so at the end of their conversation. So it's you just summarizing the main points. So your roommate said something hurtful, you felt left out. And when you did address them, they kind of didn't respond the way you thought. And now you feel unsafe or unsupported in having another conversation. Is that right? And then waiting for them to answer, be like, okay. And then you can move the conversation on to solutions. So it's like, now I have a good understanding. Let's move into solutions and action items that we can do. And this is kind of a given here, asking open-ended questions, really just avoiding those yes, no's, right? Not, did you have a good day? Yes. Instead, maybe trying, oh, it seems like you're in a really good mood. Is there anything cool that happened today? So just leaving it open. And then probing. So identify a further topic or subject that needs further discussion. Say with that roommate conflict, something came up to where they had mentioned that because of all of this, they feel like they're so stressed that they can't focus in class. That might be a good time to bring that back up. And then nonverbal engagement. So this is eye contact, right? Open or relaxed posture, facing them, nodding, those little auditory affirmations that aren't exactly, saying or engaging verbally, but it's just like, yeah, oh, okay, yeah, no, I get that, yeah. Just little affirmations here and there. Non-judgmental facial expressions, really just to show like, oh, I understand what you just said. I see what you're saying. And then little distractions. This is important. Phones, I say snack. Sometimes if you're snacking when someone's trying to tell you maybe something on the serious side, it kind of just takes away from that intimate moment. So just be aware. And then other people, of course. So really blending both of them, interpersonal communication. What is that? It's having this conversation, right? It's having this opportunity to get to know each other on a deeper level. Positive communication between the mentor and mentee creates a better relationship. This is, seen day in and day out by really utilizing that feedback, these skills, trying to validate and respect each other. So really just a big closer on this is, for a mentor, you need to understand that you are constantly communicating with your mentees, whether you're speaking or not. So recognize those nonverbal and those body movements as well. All right, so asking questions, how and when. So first on the how here, avoiding speculation, just to be really cautious and curious and sensitive to how you approach questions sometimes, and avoiding blame or judgment. So just this example, we can jump in. So, your mentee says, oh, I did this thing that I'm just kind of bummed I did. I'm embarrassed. I'm not proud of it. And I just want to talk about it to somebody. And instead of being like, well, why'd you do it? If you're not proud of it, why'd you do it? There's a much less judgmental way of saying that, in terms of, can you elaborate on why you don't feel proud? Or why is this sitting with you in the way that it is? Kind of thing, to where it opens up for a conversation and not more of like a speculative, why'd you do that? This really, what this does is it gives power to the speaker. So instead of making them feel judged or self-conscious about them opening up about something, it instead goes, okay, this person cares about what I have to say, so now I can continue telling them. Last point here on this one. So if you are ever unsure how to respond, these are a couple questions that even I utilize sometimes. But, someone's telling me something and I either don't relate or I just don't understand. I'll throw in, the situation seems really alive and really vibrant for you right now. What is that like? How are you dealing with this? Where are you going? Or what do you hope to do after this kind of question? Or more simply, right, is there anything that you need from me in this moment to help you move forward, or to help you find peace, or to help you feel more comfortable? So these are just very vague questions that are very open-ended. So they can, same deal as before, right? They can give that power to the mentee. And then the when part of questions, right? Reading the room. So really just matching the vibe and energy with the mentee. So if they come in and they share that they're kind of having just, a really rough day and just not in a good mood, it would be highly inconsiderate to just change the subject to try to keep them happy. It's a good intention, but it's inappropriate in a mentor role because they came to you and they just opened up about something like that's clearly bothering them. And then you probably unconsciously shut it down. So just being really careful about that vibe and kind of matching it. So when the vibe feels low, kind of go down there with them and be like, it seems kind of down right now. Is there anything that you want to talk about? This is an opportunity for the mentor to ask open-ended questions and really hope that the mentee begins to speak and feel understood and feel heard. This will ultimately benefit the relationship between both of you, just because it shows that you care. So reflective thinking and reflective practices, what are these? So this, in short, it's basically thinking and analyzing what you're doing, what you've done, what you've experienced, things you've learned, how you learned it, what it meant to you. So it's just really an all-encompassing way of thinking and experiencing. So for a mentor, by creating space for reflective thinking, this is an amazing opportunity for you to work with people who are different, right? Different interests, have diverse experiences that you have yet to be exposed to, be introduced to different personality traits, processing styles. This is really to help you grow as an empathetic and compassionate leader. While for a mentee, this can really encourage them to think about a situation in a new light, right? Expose them to a different understanding that they didn't see before, and really leave space for a personal breakthrough and kind of what I see, those light bulb moments, like I never thought about it like that before. This can foster self-confidence, personal and emotional awareness, and aid in building a stronger, lasting relationship, not only with you as a mentor, but really all of the individuals around them, because they've learned something new about themselves and their own processing style. So as we start to conclude here, something that I definitely want everyone to walk away with is this idea of mentor mindfulness. If you haven't heard of mindfulness, it's really just about being present and existing in the now and experiencing what is happening right in front of you and around you and inside of you. So talking about being present, when you are in a listening role, it is expected that you really truly be there with the mentee. So listen to the words that they are saying word by word, right? You shouldn't be rehearsing what you're going to say next. Because that means you aren't listening to them. So leave space for silence and for processing and for the speaker to continue on. If you're thinking about what to say next, what you're doing later, what's happening tomorrow, what they're thinking about the way you look, then you are not listening. That is not being mindful, and that's not being present. Secondly, just to stay engaged. So people can tell when you are checked out. I imagine if I could see some of your faces right now, I get that little glossed over eye, maybe sleepy, hand on your chin, holding it up, and that's okay. But when you're in a mentoring role, it's important to avoid all of those things, right? People can tell. People are smart in conversation. We're good at talking about ourselves, and when somebody's not listening, we can feel that. So just remain engaged in conversation as best as you can. And with this, if you are ever not able to stay engaged, if you're distracted, if you're emotionally unavailable, let your mentee know. This authentic form of communication and just being really open and honest can build a strong relationship. So just being like, I appreciate you coming to me, but I have to be honest with you. I am in a space right now where I'm not able to carry this. Can we meet tomorrow? Super important to help that relationship. And then lastly here, remaining compassionate. So taking on someone else's feelings and emotions and thoughts can be extremely difficult. If you are somebody who identifies, as somewhat of an empath or just a very compassionate person, it can take a lot out of you to be supportive of somebody else going through something heavy. So just remember to be a compassionate leader with others when they are sharing, but also to yourself. Know your limits, right? Know when you are unavailable emotionally, physically, with your schedule, anything like that. Just take care of yourself and be compassionate to all of your mentees, but also yourself. And then closing thoughts here, really just feeling seen and heard. So this is what a conversation is. It's feeling respected, it's feeling seen, and really having a person of contact that cares about you and the well-being of you can create a strong sense of belonging. And ultimately that is one of our biggest goals as a mentor, is to just make sure a mentee and a student, feels comfortable and feels like they belong in the environment that they are in. And that is it for today, everybody. Thank you, and have fun at your next modules.